Oh, there's a good start. Hang on one second. There we go. Good morning, everyone. How the devil are we doing this fine day? Hope you're all fit and well. I'm going to say good morning to Gary Muirhead, who was here just before we started. 9:51. Good morning, guys. Thursday already. Yeah, Gary probably celebrating. Just had delivery of his new Volvo EC500 excavator. Are you in it, Gary? How is it? I mean, I already know that it's a fine machine, but let us know. Let us know. I know you've sent some photographs to the WhatsApp group, but let us know how you're getting on with it. Who else do we have in our midst? We have Dan Collins. Dan Collins here saying, good morning, guys. I think I'm fairly sure I saw Andy Delvell. Yeah, Andy Delvell says, morning, everyone. Crane just got up and running at, let me see, 10 o'clock. Okay, Crane just got up and running due to SCR AdBlue issues again. Yeah, AdBlue. It's better for the world. Everyone should be celebrating the fact that we now have AdBlue because it's made our lives, so much better. Jim Turner has just walked through the door saying, morning, peeps. Good morning, everyone. Good morning to those, including somebody called Dirt Surgeon over on, fantastic name, Dirt Surgeon over on Instagram. Okay, so look. Several things. Let's do this one first of all. Let's get Jim out of the way. Let's throw this one up, and I'll keep that up there. There is a t-shirt up for grabs today. It's a Strauss t-shirt. There you are. That's what it looks like. Doesn't really show you a great deal, but it does say Strauss across there. I wouldn't say it's necessarily considered high vis, but it is. You'll be spotted. Let's put it like that, and that is up for grabs. But you can only take part if you're over on, let me think, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, on Facebook. Yeah, I think that's about it. You can't take part in this over on Instagram because our system doesn't recognize it. The details of what you need to do in order to be in with a shout to win that t-shirt are already up on the top of the screen. Mark Whiting is here. Jambo says, Mercy Johnston, good morning as well. Jim says, I've been told having a new machine with a tilt rotator might not be stopping yet. Well, don't stop. There's a whole new bag of toys to play with. Yes, t-shirt up for grabs. Don't forget, all you need to do to be in with a shout, save you reading it, is type Strauss into the chat. STRAUSS. Strauss. As I say, we've got, what have we got? We've got a large and we've got an extra large. Just giving one away. I'm hoping that somebody wins the extra large, so then I get to keep the large, but we'll see how it all pans out. Anyway, sometimes you turn on your phone, turn on your computer, and it gives you a reminder of something that happened on this day, however many years ago. I had one today over on Facebook. It was a reminder of a video that I filmed back on this day in 2019. So pre-COVID, before I started doing all of this old tosh, but I was still doing video. Okay, so I went to have my hair cut. It was the run up to Baumer. I went to get my hair cut, and then I'm going to pass over to a younger version of myself. This is me 7 years ago, talking about what happened. Just for the sheer fun of it. This is me. Right, I know I'm very, very close at the moment. I'm saving it because I want to show you something. Off to Baumer next week, and just decided to go and get my hair cut before I went. And the guy that cuts my hair, as I was leaving, said, "Have you ever tried fibre hair?" I didn't even know what he was talking about, to be perfectly honest, but he said I should try it because it's a special occasion. So he sprinkled some stuff on my hair, which apparently has filled in the gaps and has made me look 20 years younger. Are you ready? Look at the style of that. It looks like I'm wearing a hat. Seriously. It doesn't even match. I'm going to go and have a shower. Fibre hair can live without me. I'm done with it. Fibre hair. Yes. That's why I'm wearing a hat now. Never caught on. Right, okay, let's go back to here. We've got an entry from Mr. Ken Hatcher, who's just joined us. And let me press Ken's button just to welcome him aboard. Dan says he's on a Cat 320 GC. Be honest, not totally pleased. Jim Turner actually says I might not be stopping at this firm. Are you bailing because of the addition of the tilt rotator? Seems a little bit excessive, but yeah, each to their own. As I say, we've got. Let me just have a very quick look. See, we've only got one entry for the T-shirt so far. The banner across the top there will tell you exactly what you need to do. Mick Norton is here saying good morning from an overcast Wakefield. It's nice and sunny here, actually, in Leafy, sorry. Dan Cullen says, I think the hydraulic pump is too small and the slew is very slow for some reason. Dear, oh dear. But he also says it's nice and comfortable. Now, Dan, thank you for doing that, because today's morning monologue, which I'll explain it when I get there, but what I want to talk about is it's called What You Want. And it's deliberately pronounced like that because, Beastie Boys fan when I'm away from here. So what you want. And what I'm talking about is we've already had Andy Darvell talking about the fact that he has SCR and AdBlue issues. We've got Dan talking about his issues with his cat machine. There does seem to be a bit of a disconnect between those that operate the machines and those that design them. And I realise you'll be seeing a bit later on, John Deere had what they called a series of test pilots actually operating their new excavators before they went to market. So there is a consultation going on between the two, but I do wonder if there is enough of that. And I'm not talking about changing engines or hydraulic pumps. I'm talking about the changes that would make your life as an operator that little bit easier or that little bit more comfortable. The kind of thing that you only get to really understand and really feel when you're spending 8, 9, 10 hours in the machine every single day. We'll get to it, but if you've got any of those, if you've got any examples of a machine you're on at the moment, a machine you've been on in the past, where it was just a minor niggle, but the minor niggle became an absolute pain in the rear end. That's what we're looking for today. What else do we have here? Stefan Edwards, fiber hair, would that work for me? Stefan, listen. It did nothing for me. I'm not entirely convinced. Chris Ford, good morning, Skins. Only 6 minutes late today. That's pretty good. Mick Norton, thank you so much for that. If you paint rabbits on your scalp, it looks like hairs from a distance. Actually tempted to give that a try. Dan Cullen, enjoying the fiber hair. Jim Turner says, no, I'd love a tilt rotator. I'll be jacking if the rate is better elsewhere. Fair enough. Andy Thornton is here as well. Don't forget, everybody, as you look at the top of the screen, I'm going the wrong way. There you are. T-shirt up for grabs. Ken Hatcher says, I've got issues with the Kubota seat. That's the kind of thing we're looking for. Dan says, I think the thing is they're more concentrated on technology than the actual operation of the machine. Now, you won't get to hear this because this is something I've written, which it will appear when the written version goes out. My intro for today's morning monologue, the written version, is 24/7 in-cab monitoring, aerodynamic dashboards, and AI in everything, but nowhere to put your coffee cup. That's what we're talking about. It's that kind of thing that we're talking about. Dan says he doesn't like machines with electric over hydraulics. Mick Norton's just entered our competition. Chris Ford says, I'm having one of those days again. I could solve my problems tomorrow, sell the lot. I love it, really. And Andy Thornton says, I've just got issues. Hey, listen, well, you're among friends here. Show me somebody on this show that doesn't have issues and I'll show you a liar. Right. Loads and loads of stuff to get through today, including, as I say, the competition up top there. What do we got now? I think we have, yeah, we've got 3 entries. No entry as yet from Messrs. Cullen. I don't think Gary's entered. I don't think Chris Ford has entered. And I don't think Jim Turner's entered. So, gentlemen, do your thing. Do your thing. Jim Turner says, in the old vid, you look like a young Captain Spaulding, Sid Haig. Who, in God's name, is Captain Haig, Captain Spaulding and Sid Haig? I'm going to press the intro button in a second. Alex Latham is... Okay. Alex, listen, I appreciate you joining us, but you're just showing off, right? Alex Latham, who has grown weary of teaching people how to drive access platforms, and he's taken himself off to sunny Marrakesh. Marrakesh is lovely, particularly the food from memory. It's been a long while since I was there, but absolutely love me a bit of Marrakesh. While I'm going to play this intro, and then I'm going to go and have a look and find out who in God's name Sid Haig is. Chris, for all I can tell you, you've entered, but you've not spelt the name right. It's Strauss, Straus. Make sure you get that right and you'll be in the draw. Let me do this. So I know Sid Haig, as it turns out, but not for the role that you were talking about. So thank you for that, Jim. Let's have a look. What have we got here? Dan has sent an entry. Yes, you have. We're up to 8 entries now. Jim Turner is in the hat as well. Well, Andy, we all got issues. Mine is Hitachi and Hyundai. I'm sure Hitachi and Hyundai will be delighted to hear that. Right, okay, let's crack on, shall we? We're going to see... as you well know, John Deere recently unveiled their new range of excavators. But before they showed them to us, the general public, they actually had them out on test. We're going to be showing you that in just a moment. But first, let's have a bit of this. Showing off my fibre hair has kind of thrown me, so I've missed a part of the show. I'll get this out of the way. It's Thursday, the 9th of April. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. I am your host, Mark Anthony, the Walrus of Demolition, the Lord High Chancellor of live streaming, the authentic voice of the global demolition industry. In today's show, meet the John Deere test pilots, which we'll do in just a moment. Reliable Orange, Dan, calm. It's Hitachi, but calm. And we're also going to be taking a high-tech look back at ConExpo, not once, but twice. We're going to see Xpanner, the people that gave me this hat, and Topcon. Plus, in today's edition of Mark's Morning Monologue, and it is a tribute to Beastie Boys, so it is what you want. That's what it's called. We'll get there in just a moment. But first, let's go and check in with these John Deere test pilots.
Charles Sullivan, and I'm a John Deere test pilot.
My name's Steve Gallant, and I'm a John Deere test pilot.
My name's Lester Bailey, and I'm a John Deere test pilot.
I'm Curtis Rossignol, and I'm a John Deere test pilot. We like to do anything that involves excavators and dirt, basically. A heavy civil construction company based out of Fredericton.
I love the fact that our company has a great reputation in the local market and the community at large.
We're known as the ones that get it done on time, and get it done right the first time. The test pilot experience has been great.
We were approached by John Deere to participate in the test pilot program. They're developing a machine and they want to involve us with it. We consider John Deere a great product and a great partner. Every month we had to report back to John Deere with various metrics from the machine, any issues we had with it.
To have a new excavator on our site and be able to try it out, it's been great. Communication's been great with the factory. They're touching base all the time, checking to see what's going on and how we like the machine.
We just want to do a good job and hopefully help them develop a good product at the end. With technology to keep up with the market, and Smart Grade has definitely proven to us that John Deere is on the cutting edge. We've been using John Deere for going on 30 years. We've just had a lot of luck with the machines, reliable, strong, and just an overall great product.
It's still a lot of fun. We just move dirt every day. You can make a good living playing in the dirt.
I think John Deere's a great company. They've done a lot for contractors, and they've done a lot for us. And it's an excellent brand, which we will continue to use them.
Going to do these completely out of order because there's some good stuff to get on here. Ken Hatcher says, I'd like to be a test pilot. Imagine, and I know Ken's made another thing where he is actually testing a machine, but we'll come to that in a moment. But imagine that you are a test pilot and you go back to John Deere or JCB or Caterpillar, Hitachi, whatever it might be, and say, love the new machine, but could you just, and then that machine comes out with your change incorporated. You'd be able to point at that machine and say, you see that little widget there? That was me, that was. I'd love a bit of that. Now, talking of testing, Ken Hatcher says he's been testing the new Lugong 8-tonner, which is out next year, which is a good thing for pretty much everyone apart from Gary Muirhead, who says, Lugong is my nemesis. If I never see another one again, it'll be too soon. Yeah. Horses for courses, my friend. Horses for courses. Dan Cullen saying it's a bit cooler and overcast in Plymouth. It's okay here today. It's not bad. It's I've not been out that far, but it's sunny out. Chris Ford, what happened to the days? Yes, whatever happened to the days? Once you started the machine, it would run until you stopped it. This Dozer's alternator isn't charging enough to run the machine, and I can't get another one until the morning. Yeah, Dan promises to be calm. We shall see. We shall see. Going back to our fibre hair, which is an odd way to start the show, but that's where we were. Mick Norton says, my late dad always said, when others noted his loss of hair, nothing grows on a busy highway, lad. Yeah, quite right too. It's the same as a friend of mine always used to. This is not a beer belly. It's a fuel tank for a sex machine, he used to say. Yeah. Dan, wow, did you notice one thing that all beards are all in their mid-40s? Interesting. Listen, if you went to Ken Hatcher was there, he'll tell you lots of beards in America at the moment. Lots of beards. And I don't know whether it's the working man in America kind of has a bit of a uniform. It's jeans, no great surprise. It's boots, no great surprise. Plaid shirts, like a lumberjack shirt. Baseball cap, not dissimilar to this one. Big old beard. Lots and lots of beards. Lots and lots of beards. Gary Muirhead says, really good idea. We've got a couple of test pilots on the show. Yeah, absolutely. Listen, if there's a manufacturer out there that wants some test pilots, just say the word. Chris Ford says, solar panel for a sex machine. They used to say, personally, I'd rather have a meat and potato pie these days. Can you not have both? Got to keep your energy levels up. Lucky bugger, says Jim. My dream job, having a hand in machine development through practical use and knowledge. Yeah, and again, all of this keys into the thing that I'm doing at the end of the show, which is talking about the disconnect. And Dan hit the nail on the head. I think we spent probably a decade. Equipment manufacturers spent roughly a decade trying to get one step ahead of the next iteration of the emissions regulations. So stage 3, stage 4, stage 5, onto HVO, onto electric, onto diesel. They spent a lot of time doing that. And now I get the impression that a lot of it is, there's a lot of AI-driven stuff, AI-driven reversing cameras, AI-driven aerial cameras, reverse warnings, and, human form detection systems and all of that. All of which are great, and I love all of that. I love all the technology and everything else. But what about the bloke or the girl that he sat in the seat? Are you just developing around them? That's kind of the question for today. I'm very surprised they haven't come to the UK, even with demo machines. They have loading shovels in the UK. Yeah, they do. Maybe it's a timing thing, but maybe it's just too hard to break the market. when you think about all of the excavators, I mean, would you want to start a rival excavator company up against all of the incumbents? I mean, what do we have now? 20 odd manufacturers of excavators? Well, and the fact that you've got to set up dealer networks and parts organizations, I just wonder if it's worth it. Dan says, I'd love to be a test pilot. I'd show them something. He says, I'm waiting to get a camera so I can give my say on what would make machines better for operators. I'm looking forward to seeing it. Jim Turner is blazing a trail. So yeah, get yourself a camera, get yourself in front of it. Let's make the world a better place. We've done test pilots. We're going Hitachi, Landcross, somewhere between the two in just a moment after this.
If you are enjoying this episode, please consider supporting the show. You can leave us a tip at buymeacoffee.com/demolition news.
Now, Hitachi, as we know them today, Landcross, as we will know them in about a year's time, have brought out a new film. The new film is called Reliable Orange. I didn't name it. That's what it's called. This is what it is. This is what it says. This is why they refer to themselves as Reliable Orange.
For years, you've found your own way to name the machines that carry your day. Not what the brochure says, not even what the badge says. What you call it, because you know it best. Call it the dependable one, a hydraulic miracle, Zaxxas 210, or call it impressive. Call it the beast, Old Faithful, Big Bro, or the surgeon. Call it Mr. Precision, Powerful Pete, your friend, your partner, or just call it Bertha. Call it the reason you come to work. Call it the reason you finish on time. Whatever you call it, it will always be the Reliable Orange. And from April 2027, we'll call it Landcross.
Right. Okay. So I'll get to the chat in just a moment because I've literally just had a press release come through from Volvo. Volvo Construction Equipment have begun production of its A30 electric and A40 electric, becoming the first manufacturer in the entire world to bring electric articulated haulers of this size into serial production. We've seen them at the shows. We've seen them in prototype form. They are now in serial production. The A30 and A40 electric ADTs are now in serial production up in Sweden. Congratulations to Volvo. I'm actually up in Eskilstuna, which is not where they're built, but I'm hoping they will have one of the electric trucks up there when I'm up there in June, because I'd love to take one for a spin. Going back to what we're talking about with developments on machines, Dan Cullen has said this: too many cameras are a hindrance and a distraction, I would say. I wouldn't argue with that. Jim Turner, going back to the test pilot notion, if I could have machines at my place, put them through their paces in real work situations while getting paid for it, I'd be very, very happy. I'm sure you would. Well, thing I'd see the brand would make. Not sure what you're saying there, Dan. And Dan also says editing might be my issue and time to do it. I'm not going to say. Not going to say you're wrong, because I'm bearing in mind I'm in the biz, and I do spend an inordinate amount of time editing videos, but it's not actually necessary. It's not actually necessary. One of the big drivers, Jim will tell you, one of the big drivers of video engagement on YouTube now, and Facebook as well, and Instagram, is authenticity. If you can just set a camera running and include your mistakes and your cock-ups and the bit where you drop the camera, nobody's going to bat an eyelid. You could literally just set the thing recording, take it, upload it. No one will bat an eyelid, I promise you. Gary says, I call my machine the PlayStation. Has anybody else got nicknames for their machines? I remember, I'm sure they still do it, Eddie Stobart used to name all their trucks, always a woman's name or a lady's name. Anybody else got a name for their machine? Dan saying, orange reliable, no miracle in my eyes, more like a pain in my ass. I told you he wouldn't be calm. I told you it's like a red rag or an orange rag to a bull. I mentioned Hitachi, and Dan has his goat fetched for him. Mick Norton says the operator's cab is becoming cluttered with what manufacturers claim are technological advancements, where in fact they are a gross distraction. Keep that in mind. I can't see that working on UK sites, so fair play to them. And Jim Turner says, I've got to make time to get my head around editing. There is a degree of investment, but you can even outsource that. You can literally say, turn this into a 10-minute video and an AI will do it for you. You have to pay for the privilege. AI at the moment is very good at sort of 5, 8, 10-second videos, not so good with longer ones, but you can do that. You really can. Doesn't need to be that hard. We're going back to ConExpo in just a moment, but first a bit of this.
Since the finance bill came into effect in April, the construction industry has seen a surge of fuel thefts. The rising cost of living has placed an additional risk of theft by employees and contractors, as well as opportunistic thieves. By using diesel dye and placing warnings of its use, you are sending a clear message that this is your fuel.
Editing faces may be my thing. I wouldn't want people to be in there without their consent. It's a fair comment, but again, there are systems you can literally point at them. Some of the editing software we use, point at them and say, track that face and pixelate it, and it'll do that. As I say, it comes at a cost, but it is doable. Not a problem at all. The other way is just make sure the camera is not pointing at people. Save you a lot of time. Neither of my short spoken word vids have made much of a dent, but then again, most buggers probably can't make head nor tail of me. One of the things that we've learned, and you're about to see a couple of examples, actually, both of these are our films we're about to show you. One of the issues that you have, particularly in short form content, is when people are looking for kind of digger related, dumper, dozer related, what they're actually looking for is machines. We've now got to the point where, wherever possible, we start a video, particularly on like YouTube Shorts or Instagram Reels, start a video with an image of a piece of equipment and then go into the talking head or the interview, because people will flick through. Ken Hatter is asking who's won the t-shirt. He's been on the phone, haven't drawn it yet. I tell you what, let me do one more film, and then I'll do the draw then. I don't know if I'll catch Ken, but I'll do my level best. And Gary says it's like this new machine. 2 screens, small one does all the machine controls. The second one is massive, only does the camera, and it's only on half of the screen. I'm sure at some point in the future we will have like an integration where you can, maybe even a heads-up display. Everything is fed onto your windscreen. But as it stands at the moment, clutter. I remember Peter Haddock describing it as cab clutter, and I think we are victims of that right about now. Mick Norton says, what does Mick Norton say? My old Fowler dozer used to get hauled around West Germany in the 1960s by any one of a fleet of knackered scannel units named Faith, Hope and Charity. Fantastic. Yeah, I've got a computer that is a bit like Hope. Dan is going back to work. Not a problem. I'm going back to work as well. Not a problem at all, gents. I will drop you a line if either of you. I tell you what. So I tell you what, should we just do it? Get it out of the way. Here is the Strauss competition. I'm drawing it right now to see who has won the Strauss competition. And it is Dan Cullen. Now, Dan, let me know what I need to do, will you? Because I've already got a hat for you here. I've now got a T-shirt. I've also got a mouse mat for you. I know you're back in Plymouth. Let me know when you want it sent. But Dan, you've just won yourself the T-shirt. So congratulations on that. Let me get that out of the way. There's Gary. Well done, Dan, saying Andy. Well done, Dan, saying Gary. Yeah, Ken's gone back to work. Missed that one. And Mick Norton saying, well done, Dan. Dan, I will put that one on. I already know that you're not an extra large. Bear with me 1 second. That's the extra large. I put that to one side. Dan, let me know when you're back in back in civilization, and I'll get your gifts over to you. Well done and congratulations. Jim Turner says, I think you're correct. Presentation is key. I've got short vids that have done 40,000 views. My average is probably about 1,500. I wonder if it's down to the opening view. I do find this, I know this is a bit of a distraction. When you're looking at TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube Shorts, all of them have an opening image. If that opening image is of some bloke they've never seen before, and I don't just mean you, Jim, I mean, with the stuff that we do, it's going to get less engagement. If you can have a machine or a bit of a machine or, a close-up of something that you think might be of interest, you'll get a way better result. Cabs are cluttered. Too much technology, he says. Chris Ford, well done, Dan. Wouldn't have fitted me anyway. Hold it and I'll let you know. Yeah, not a problem at all. Either that or a lucky share from a popular media bod. Well, I don't know any of those, sadly, Jim, but you never know. Thank you, guys. Now you'll see me from the space station. Yeah, anybody else a little surprised that the crew of the Artemis actually came home? Given the fact that they were going back to America, would you not have looked down from above and thought, sod this, let's head off into deep space? I think I might have been tempted. Right, okay, I've already keyed this one up. I'm not going to keep you waiting any longer. We're off to ConExpo again. Not once, but twice. First time with the people that very kindly gave me this hat, my mate Owen, and then we're going to Topcon. So here is Xpanner.
Welcome to the Xpanner booth. We're here at ConExpo 2026. Xpanner is an automation and robotics company, a startup of 6 years. We started in America 2 years ago, Korean-based company with founders from Doosan Bobcat and Volvo, together with geospatial experts such as myself from companies like Hexagon and Leica Geosystems. Together, we look at a journey in automation, step-by-step approach, guidance technologies, survey technologies, and looking at the automation. Specifically in the US market, we've been heavily involved in the solar utility sector, and we're looking to develop new technologies of automation in that space. We offer piling automation as an example. We're also looking at panel placement automation with excavator technology, automating those task-related aspects. Also, delivery of the piles in that ecosystem. We also have telematics software where we're able to look at the whole ecosystem, the as-built, the information flooding over the internet into our ecosystem, so recording all the data. We work with bespoke tasks, modulated tasks, so we talk to our customers, listen to the problems they have, discuss the opportunities, and we're able to then look at the benefits, return on investment, and the automation features that they desire to move the construction industry forward.
Just very quickly on that, we spent quite a bit of time with Owen there. I think it's worth mentioning the pedigree of the company. Not being paid to say this, although they did give me a very nice hat. But when you've got people that are ex-Doosan Bobcat, ex-Volvo, and ex-Leica coming together to form a technology company, you've got a pretty good ground in there, I would say. And they are doing some very, very interesting stuff. So have a good look at Xpanner. Dan says, what would be a great camera to buy? He's been looking at GoPro and others. Personally, wouldn't touch GoPro with a barge pole. Overly expensive. Limitations. I mean, they're good cameras, don't get me wrong, they are good cameras. If it was down to me, and I am biased on this, I would go for one of the DJI action cams. They're a bit cheaper, particularly if you can pick one up on I don't know, eBay or something like that, get a second-hand one. They're really, really good. You don't have to worry about nonsense systems, because GoPro often makes you go through random bloody editing processes and stuff like that. DJI, absolutely fantastic. You just film it, it's widescreen, it's super wide. Just bung the SD card into a computer or send it over to your phone, edit it or don't, fire it up into the ether, you're good to go. That would be my recommendation. Faith Open Charity, we were talking about this with our friend Mick, but Faith Open Charity are apparently also the names of 3 Gloster Gladiator fighter planes being used to supposedly defend Malta in World War II. Who knew? Dan says they sound interesting. Listen, what have we got now? We've got in this house, office, studio, we have 3 sets of DJI mics, 3 DJI cameras, and 2 sets of DJI microphones. We're quite the fan, and they've never let us down. And we've played around. I mean, we've played with different drones from different people. Always let us down. DJI never have. The cameras never let us down, and unfortunately, the GoPros did. And the microphones in particular. Early doors, we were using Rode microphones, and the number of times that we came back and had perfect visuals, and the audio had gone queer for some reason, and not the case with DJI. We've never missed an interview with DJI. They sound interesting. Over a 10-hour shift, decision fatigue can adversely affect the efficiency, safety of an operator swamped with technology. Bear that in mind when we get to the final bit of the morning monologue. So I've been told about GoPro. We'll look into that. Well, please do. I wish there was some way I could offer you a discount code, but I don't have one. All I would say is have a look on eBay, have a look on Amazon used, and see if you can find yourself one there. One final film. We're talking Topcon in just a moment after this. Yeah, back into one of the, I can't remember which hall they were in. Were they in the North Hall or the West Hall? Can't actually remember, but TopCon at ConExpo. And this is our interview with them.
My name is Joel Frost. I'm the Director of Compact Products for Topcon Positioning Systems. Welcome to ConExpo 2026. MC Mobile, our new product for compact equipment, handles both mini excavators or excavators of any size actually, and the CTL units. With all the new attachments that are out there these days, we can automate a CTL with a grader blade, a box blade, some of the other attachments out there, really make that CTL a very, very profitable and productive tool for you. The MC Mobile is a measure, design, build product. So it's tackling where a contractor needs to go out, get on site, do some measurements, actually type in his foundation, type in his septic field, type in his road or whatever he's trying to do in the field right there on one site, takes that display off his pole where he was doing his measurement from and goes directly into his machine, and now that display became his machine guidance system. So now he knows exactly where he's on site, 3-dimensionally, and he can cut to grade, no overdigging, no redigging, no backfilling, that sort of stuff. So it's a measure, design, build product, seamless solution for the contractor in that market. The good thing about the product is it's pretty much the same product that goes on the large machines, but the large machines now are coming out fully integrated with most of them with our solution in them. So the next natural step was, how do we get the smaller contractor into this? We know it's productive. The response has been great. You know, it's a bell curve. The early adopters are getting into it, and once they see it, they're like, why didn't I do this 10 years ago? MC Mobile is unique because it's a one solution that fits on one tablet. So a customer goes out, he measures, he designs, and then he goes into his machine. Doesn't have to have a model, doesn't have to go out and do all these other things that the large contractors do. Now, it runs the same software, so if he's working with a contractor on a large site, he takes that model, puts it in, and it's seamless, right? It really has brought these contractors that want to grow their business up to a new level. MC Mobile works two different ways. We work with a 3D laser, we call it the LN160. You have to have line of sight between the laser and the unit or whatever you're doing, whether it's your machine or the rover. We also work with GPS or GNSS as they call it today. So GNSS works great outdoors, doing large grading projects. You're doing anything where you can see line of sight to the sky. So we really look at the contractor, what kind of work do you do, what do you want, and what really product fits his build to actually get the job done. So if you want to get a hold of somebody at Topcon and find out more about MC Mobile, just Google MC Mobile, MC-Mobile on your search bar, and it'll come up and say a 3-in-1 solution. Go on there, that has our videos, all that sort of stuff, and it'll also send me some more information. That'll come to me, and I will farm that out to the proper dealer in your area, and we'll get a hold of you and take care of you and get you up and running as soon as possible.
That right there is the next stage of development. I think we're all aware of the rise and the unstoppable rise, I think, of technology in larger machines, dozers, bigger excavators. But the day that starts coming into compact track loaders, skid steers, mini excavators even, that's the next stage of the technological revolution. Fantastic presentation from your man there at Topcon. We've got more coming from them in the weeks ahead. We've got more coming from CM Labs as well on simulations. Maybe do that one for you tomorrow. But that pretty much wraps up the main part of this morning's show. I'm going to roll the outro in just a second before leaping gazelle-like over into my morning monologue. If you can't stick around for that, please stay safe. Look after yourself, your family, your friends, and your colleagues. Hope to see you again very, very soon. I'll be back tomorrow at 10 a.m. for our final show of the week. Another short week, but if you do have the time and the inclination, I will be back immediately after this. As is so often the case, the Beastie Boys said it best when they asked, "So what you want?" But seriously, when was the last time you were actually asked what you want? Were you asked about coffee shops selling bucket-sized beverages that taste of everything aside from coffee and then charging a $5 for the privilege? Were you consulted about low emission zones and the fact that in addition to your road tax, you now have to pay again to drive your car in certain parts of the country? Were you asked if you wanted to be monitored 24/7, to be filmed and photographed as you went about your daily business, for your every online and offline activity to be tracked and recorded? Were you asked if you wanted to be a mentor and a nursemaid to an apprentice who is way more interested in his phone than in anything you have to say? Was your opinion sought, or were you just told that henceforth you would be a mental health first aider? Did anyone check on your domestic circumstances before sending you to work up the country for the next 6 months? And what about the machine you're currently sat in? Did anyone ask if you were happy to make do with the basic seat that gives you a bad back and a numb bum? Were you consulted before the umpteenth monitor was wired into the cab, restricting your vision while simultaneously grassing you up to the management? Were you told in advance that your employer was spending additional money to install a camera in the cab to keep an eye on you, but had refused to pay the extra for a reversing camera that would have made your fellow workers safer? Construction equipment designers and manufacturers are seriously smart people, and they have at their disposal highly advanced tools and technology required to turn their dream into your reality. But ultimately, they're playing the averages. They're building machines that are perfect in every way for the average customer, the average terrain, the average application, and the average operator. But none of those things actually exist in the real world. Manufacturers will proclaim that they've provided 10% more legroom in their newly designed cab. If you're 5'10" like I am, you could damn near swing a cat in all that space. But if you're 6'6", you're still working with your knees tucked up beside your ears. Those same manufacturers will tell you they've increased the glass area of the windows for greater visibility and sight safety. What they don't tell you is that depending on your size, your build, or your sitting position, there's still a sodding great pillar that always seems to be precisely where you want to look. And they'll proudly tell you that they've grouped all the key service points together to simplify daily maintenance. But they fail to tell you that you'll need 7-foot long arms and 3 elbows if you actually want to reach any of them. There is, it seems, a disconnect between what operators want and what they actually get. And that's always been the case, but in their pursuit of ever cleaner engines and a burning desire to put AI in absolutely everything, the gap between what operators want and what they get is growing. Let's take a look at a few relatively low-key examples. Thanks to the post-COVID hangover and the fact that modern technology allows operators to be monitored like rats in a lab, the notion of convivial lunch breaks in a jolly sight canteen is mostly a thing of the past. In order to hit production levels, many operators now drink their tea and coffee, eat their lunch, and grab a mid-afternoon snack in the cab of their machines. So, you pour yourself a cup of coffee. Between slurps, you'd like to set it down on a nice flat surface. But there aren't any. The designer of the machine has decided, for reasons best known to himself, that the cab interior needs to be aerodynamic. And so it's made up of a series of aesthetically pleasing but utterly impractical curves. You're forced to lock your coffee cup between your knees and pray that you don't scald your undercarriage while doing so. Speaking of the in-cab consumption of food and drink, an operator might well be in the cab of that machine for 10 hours or more, and they're doing demanding physical work. To do that, they need plenty of food and lots of calories. An operator's lunchbox is not the sort of thing that you send your kids to school with. It's often the size of a small suitcase, and it's generally accompanied by a flask the size of a fuel tank from a Ford Fiesta. Manufacturers will tell you they've provided space for you to store your lunch, and they have, so long as your lunch is a quarter of a cucumber sandwich with the crust removed. And here's the one that really butters my personal parsnips. When getting in and out of a machine, be sure to maintain 3 points of contact. Sound advice. We wouldn't want anyone falling off a machine, now would we? So why is it that you need to be the height of a basketball player to reach the grab handles on your way in? Why is the step down hidden, so you're left waving your leg around trying to find a firm foothold? And why is the bottom rung always just high enough off the ground to jar your knees, your hips, and your spine when you step down? Manufacturers claim they've provided state-of-the-art climate control. So why are most operators working with the window or the door open, even though it's -10 and snowing outside? In addition, despite all the claims about additional legroom, the operator is often working with his feet turned out at 2:45. When he finally emerges from the cab at the end of the shift, he looks like a ballerina adopting first position. The irony in all of this is that machines are currently advancing at a faster rate than ever before. Modern design and manufacturing methods allow a new machine to move from drawing board to on-site reality faster than at any time in the industry's history. And yet so much of that development seems to be taking place around the operator, like a town centre being redeveloped without touching the church or the pub that actually lies at the very heart of the local community. Now, I've never designed an excavator in my life. Chances are I probably never will. But I would guess that one of the most challenging parts of that design process is accommodating the huge number of parts and components required to make the machine tick. But perhaps some additional thought could be given to the single most important component, the one without which the machine is just a big, heavy, and very expensive paperweight. The man or woman sat inside with their knees up under their chin, wondering if they could follow the example set by Paddington Bear and keep their sandwiches under their hat. Any equipment manufacturers out there that are listening to that? I was going to say I apologise. I don't. Listen, I've not made... I mean, I wrote it. I did make it up, but it's all based on stuff that I've either experienced or I've been told by operators. All of this is based loosely in truth. Mike Wolf saying road tax was abolished in 1937. Just saying. Okay, thank you. But you know what I mean. Mick Norton, do workplace accident statistics reflect lesser accidents on site thanks to technological advances? I don't believe they do. I think we've hit a plateau when it comes to accidents and what have you. I know that one of the things I'm going to be recording later today, I realise there is a consultation going on the whole RIDDOR thing. But one of the things that I always refer back to, we've got all of this technology in the machine, on the machine. We've got all of that. We've got training matrices. We've got competence cards, competence courses, training up the wazoo, and yet we have not really made any significant impact upon the number of accidents and fatalities within this industry. Now, I appreciate the fact that the HSE is going back and looking again at RIDDOR. I think it's overdue, but I think they should be doing that. Will that be enough? I mean, it might extend the items or the incidents that are required to be reported under RIDDOR. Is it going to make our site safer? Probably not. Because ultimately, and despite what Mick has said, the current RIDDOR consultation is the best thing the HSE have done for years. I take that all on board. The problem that I have with that, and I realise my job requires me to be a professional cynic. The problem I have with the whole RIDDOR thing is by the time you get to RIDDOR, the accident's already happened. Whatever the cause of that accident is, all we're doing is updating and probably widening and extending what needs to be reported under RIDDOR. Is that going to move the safety needle? Is it going to reduce accidents or fatalities? I don't believe so. I think all it's going to do is mean that we report more things. I think that's the absolute truth. Mixes, I think it's fair to assume that operators' bad behavioural traits have not improved since the advent of technological advances. No, I don't think that's the case. And the other thing, and I know we're tending to talk here about in-cab technology, but one of the main contributors, I would say, to accidents or the likelihood of accidents, these. How many times, and I know we talk about mobile phones being banned on some sites, and some sites, some of the more secure sites, you have to lock them in a locker when you go to work and that kind of thing. How often do you look out the window of your cab and see somebody actually on their phone? All the time. To the point, and this is one of the things that I find bizarre, and this is not unique, but the NFDC introduced an app some time back to help people identify how various different types of waste should be diverted. I can't remember what it was called, but basically it was a case of if it's this, it goes there. If it's that, it goes there. But it was a mobile app that you had to use on a live demolition site. Do we want people reaching into their pocket to check what a waste is on a live demolition site? Personally, I don't believe we do. And as I say, that's not unique to the NFDC. We talk about it on the show here, and we've got what did Volvo call theirs? The Emma app. So they're electric machines. You can basically monitor your charge levels and your battery levels via the Emma app, which is fantastic. I mean, it's incredible technology. But do we really want operators and operatives looking at their mobile phone, checking battery levels when they actually should be looking out the window, keeping an eye on the people around them? So going back to Mick's point, technology, not necessarily a good thing. Now, we've done that one. Jim Turner says, I must tip my hat to JCB. I reviewed their 140X and 245X on LinkedIn, and one of the development team came out here to get my views so it could be posted on to the right people. Real shame I didn't manage to get employed by them. I still have my fingers crossed. But listen, what I would say is well, fair play to JCB. I tip my hat. I've kind of been defending them. I'll come back to them in a moment. I've been defending them over on YouTube over the past 24 hours. But my experience with JCB, and again, not being paid to say this, my experience with JCB over the past 38 odd years that I've been dealing with them is they've been nothing but helpful and accommodating and kind and generous. And I'm delighted to hear that they actually bothered to pick up the phone or drop you an email and pay you a visit. The reason I'm defending them over on YouTube, as part of our new report show the other day, I mentioned the fact that there was a report. Mick Norton alerted me to this, but there was a report in the Daily Mail, so it may or may not be true, but a report in the Daily Mail that some left-leaning councils were giving the pothole pro a swerve because of Lord Anthony Bamford's political leanings. He's a contributor to the Tory party, and as I say, I don't actually believe there was a great deal of validity to it, but I reported on it nonetheless. One of the people over on YouTube, disreputable, war crimes, and as I say, I've had to defend them. That's not my experience with JCB at all. Chris Ford says the whole point of training is so people can attribute blame to some poor sod who's had a bad day. Yeah, I can't. In actual fact, I mean that's kind of the crux of RIDOR as well. There's been an incident. I need to fill out a form so that we can blame that guy. Kind of. Dan says, I almost honestly. The cab is okay on this machine, but the steps and access egress ain't great. No. I probably, well, no, I'm going to mention it. The first, fairly sure it was the first plant works. I was working, this was before Fred came aboard. But I was working with a cameraman who decided to get himself in a Volvo excavator to film within the cab. I think it was a new machine they were showing off possibly for the first time in the UK. So he got in and he filmed and everything else. As he got out, he followed the rules, go out backwards, 3 points of contact, but his pocket caught on the joystick as he was getting out and ripped it off. Now, I'm sure Volvo weren't best pleased about that. But the point is, or the point that I was going to make with that is just how ergonomic is a machine when you can catch your pocket on a joystick. He was lucky. The joystick gave, but what if he'd taken a step back and the joystick had held? He could have ended up falling on his head. Now, we're talking 5 or 6 different iterations of Volvo excavators by now. I'm sure that's no longer the case. But, so going back to Dan's point, access and egress, and bearing in mind that surely that should be one of the bare minimums. In order for that machine to actually do what it's designed to do, you need to get a bloke or a woman into the cab and out safely and securely. Surely that's a baseline requirement to be able to get in and get out without injuring or hurting yourself. Dan says, is your girl still doing videos of JCB? I think she is. I mean, I got the impression she'd sort of moved up the ladder, so whether she's still got the time. But she changed her name. I know she was the JCB Digger girl. I think she's the Happy Digger or something like that now. Haven't seen Georgina in quite some time. In actual fact, I've not been to JCB for quite some time. You'd have to think maybe the run up to Hillhead, assuming they're exhibiting there, maybe we'll get an invite. We shall see. Andy Thornton says, although mental health is my focus, I do see a lot of stats that show AI and similar tech has improved safety on site and in cab, mainly by showing real-time injury reductions. I've not seen any data that supports that. If you've got that, Andy, I'd love to hear about that. Jim says, my reviews weren't totally complimentary, so they could have just ignored me, but they were happy to hear where I thought they fell short of the mark. Is that not the whole? That's where I have a problem with this this whole content creator influencer. You know, Mike Wolf may well still be here. He does more or less the same job as I do. You know, we'll go to, for example, we'll go to Volvo. I don't know if Mike's on the next trip to Eskilstuna, but we're going to Volvo. And we will go, and Volvo will say, here's all our machines, go and have a play, and that they will leave us to go and write about things. There is a requirement among certain manufacturers, though. You know, we're paying you to be here, or we're paying the cost of you being here, in other words, your flight and your accommodation, and there is an expectation for you to say positive things. Who gains from that? Not the customer who takes that creator's word as their bond. And you know, if Fred Blogs on Instagram said this is a great machine, I'm going to go and have a look at it. Turns out it's not for me at all. So they don't gain from it. The manufacturer doesn't really gain, because you end up selling a false promise of what that machine can do. And ultimately, the content creator is just shown to be a complete bloody idiot. Takashi 2057, haven't seen you for a while. The rising cost of materials is causing a lot of trouble, and that's in Japan. It's exactly the same here, my friend. I'm going to be reporting on that later today. Ergonomic improvements by manufacturers, I wouldn't know. There are lots of claims. One of the things that I wonder about, and it was while I was writing about this that really triggered in my head, 10% more legroom. How is that actually measured? So if I'm sat in an excavator, you'll have to do the mental picture yourself. I'm sat in an excavator, and down there are my feet and some pedals. Now, if you've pushed those pedals back 10%, so I can now stretch my legs out, that, to my mind, is a gain. Particularly if you happen to be the size of Jim, and he's a big lad with big legs or long legs, that would be fantastic. If, however, the 10% increase has been that way, what bloody difference does it make? Or if part of that 10% of additional legroom is taken up by all the knobs and dials and levers under your seat to set your height, your rake and everything else, are you gaining anything? There's my question. Mick says the aim of RIDDOR is to ensure that serious workplace incidents are reported so risks can be understood, investigated and prevented. I understand that 100%. And I'm going to ask a question now. I'm not going to make a statement. I'm going to ask a question of Mick. Mick, this is very much your wheelhouse. This is your area of expertise. I know in the access industry, with the International Powered Access Federation, they are extremely, extremely good at taking accident data and turning that into updated, upgraded, or completely new training. Are we? If, for example, we had, I say a spate, but let's say we had half a dozen accidents on site dumpers that were vaguely similar in nature. Is there a trigger within HSE, within the RIDDOR system, to then go out to the CITB, CSCS, CPCS, knocking all of these weird and wonderful training companies to say, we have identified this, you need to upgrade to that? Is that happening? And as I say, I know I'm stating that as a statement. I'm actually asking the question, is there a direct correlation between what RIDDOR and the HSE are identifying as the cause of accidents and what the training providers actually then deliver to those that are being trained? Mick, over to you. I beg to wonder why joysticks are so long. Shorter would be better, I think. Well, I mean, bearing in mind, we've come from well, that's a good look. I like that. I need to do that more often. We've come a long way with that. I do think they are better. But again, I wonder how much of that is, as I said in the monologue, how much of that is down to playing the averages. we need to allow for, at one end we'll have Jim Turner. I don't know how tall Jim is. What is he, 6'4", something like that? So we'll have Jim at one end of the spectrum, and we'll have Nick Drew as about 5'0" at the other end. So they are designing seats and cabs and access and egress and joysticks based on an average between Big Jim and Little Nick. So let me think. 5 foot. Oh, he's taller than 5 foot, but so I don't know, what's that? A foot and 4 inches. So we'll call it, I don't know, 8-9 inches thereabouts. So does the access and egress really suit somebody that is 5'11", and therefore somebody like a Nick has got levers that seem exceptionally long, or has Jim got levers that seem exceptionally short? And he says he's 6'1". I thought you were much taller than that. You dwarfed me. I mean, I'm only 5'10" and in heels, and I wasn't wearing heels the last time I saw you. Maybe I should have been, but yeah. Have you ever spoken to Volvo or JCB, asked them to do visit operators on site, look at the machines in action? Yes, they do. They do that. I don't know what Volvo and JCB call it. I know Caterpillar refer to it as field follow, but yes, all of the major manufacturers do that. And one of the things that they're very good at is, I know in the run up to the launch of the JCB 370X, they sent 1 or 2 machines. I think it was like Croatia or somewhere like that, into like a mountainous region, working in hard rock to really sort of knock off the rough edges. One of the questions I'm asking, and again, I know I fully understand the need for secrecy and confidentiality and stuff, but they tend to put those field follow machines out to people that they already deal with. If you're a 30-year Caterpillar fanboy and Caterpillar send you their new dozer, just how objective are you going to be? Listen, I'm sure the manufacturers have thought of this. And certainly, speaking to JCB when they launched the 370X, apparently some of the things that they identified while it was working, I'm fairly sure it was Croatia, some of the things they identified were then incorporated into the new machine before it went to market. But if you're doing all of your pre-launch research among existing customers, is that truly objective? Would they not be better off? Think of JCB. They got their Kevin quarry, close it for a couple of days, and just drag in operators. Get Jim up, get Dan up, get Gary Muirhead down from Scotland, turn them loose, and see what they think. People that may or may not be JCB fans or Volvo fans or whatever. The available evidence is operational and deployment-based rather than large-scale academic casual inference. Balfour Beatty seems to be a big leader on this tech adoption. Yeah, and bear in mind, Balfour Beatty, Jesus, 8-9 years ago, actually produced a white paper in which they envisaged a human-free construction site by 2050, which was one of the inspirations for my Demolition 2051 book, what I wrote some time ago. Mick Norton says the creation of new learning outcomes to accommodate necessary changes are integrated in the review of national occupational training standards. Good to hear. Good to hear. People always seem to think I'm taller. Being fat, I really should look shorter than I really am. I think part of it, Jim, is your bearing. You maybe that's a side effect of working in a machine. You take this in the way that it's meant. You're quite erect. I've just said that to a grown man. You're quite erect. Whereas I mainly because when I'm at an exhibition, last time I saw Jim face to face, I think it was at Hillhead, and I've usually got a backpack on my back and I'm weighed down by camera gear. But Jim he's up there. Dan says, I'd love to talk to some manufacturers on these machines, like pumps, responses, slew and cab comfort, easy access to the cab. Listen, there are manufacturers watching this as we speak. People, put in a call. Chris Ford says, I'm 6'1", 130 kilograms. Generally don't have a problem getting in and out of modern machines, but some old plant, I wonder how they managed it. It's age-related things that screw me now. Yeah. Are you doing that thing now where you make involuntary noises when you sit down or when you stand up? Yeah, I'm doing that. It's a bit of a worry, really. Mick Norton says we had a Cat D8H operator who was vertically challenged, and we added 6-inch blocks of timber to each steering brake pedal in order for him to reach them okay. Wow. Vertically challenged. Yeah. There is a video. I probably shouldn't share this because it's completely un-PC, but I'm going to tell you about it. There's a video doing the rounds on, I saw it on Instagram, I think. And there's a couple of it's basically a recording from a podcast, and one of the guys says that he had recently attended a midget's funeral. One of his colleagues picks him up. You can't call them midgets anymore. They are. I can't even remember what the PC term is, but he corrected him. You can't say midget, and he said, yeah, but went to the funeral. We didn't go and see the coffin. We passed it round like a pass the parcel. Made me laugh a lot, that did. Jim Turner says, I'd gladly test for JCB on a part-time basis. Personally, I think part-time tests BOS can give more rounded opinion than full-time employees. I think I've overstated it for artistic purposes. I don't believe that JCB or Volvo or Caterpillar, Komatsu, Hitachi, I don't think any of them are designing machines in perfect isolation. But I do wonder if they are truly considering what a machine will look like, perform like, will feel like 10 hours at a time, 6 and 7 days a week. I do wonder about that. When you say involuntary noises standing up, do you mean farting? Sometimes. I mean, it's none of your business, but sometimes. No, I mean that noise. That's the one I was talking about. Hyundai didn't like my intake on their machine when I saw them at Plantworks. Yeah, it's exhibitions are a funny thing. Like we work with companies and get paid to do so. But I never go to an exhibition to sell our services because I'm very mindful of the fact that they've paid thousands, sometimes tens of thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands, sometimes even millions of pounds or dollars to sell their wares. The last thing they need is some Herbert, and I mean me, turning up and trying to sell them something while they're trying to sell what they're doing. I'm not sure exhibitions are the right forum to discuss the shortcomings of machines. So saying that, what is the other forum? How else would you deliver that news? How can you take somebody from Hyundai to Velon, Landcross? When and where and how can you take somebody to one side and say, I've been operating one of your machines for the last 6 months, and this is driving me batshit crazy? Where do you do that? Andy says, oh, you mean hard farts? Is there any other kind? Mick Norton says, often a suggestion and award scheme for employees can get that much needed comment back from the cutting edge. Yeah. I do wonder about that, though. And I am a cynic and I am a skeptic. I think some of the major manufacturers, some of the major contractors, the tier ones, are very good at, suggestion box at the entrance to their site. And then once a month, they'll give an award to somebody that came up with a great idea. Often among their supply chain, here's a £50 Amazon voucher for that great idea you had. But I do wonder about the validity of suggestion boxes elsewhere. Here's a suggestion box, and once a month they just put it over the bin and give it a shake, and we'll go back to square one and start again. I wonder. Dan says that's the thing. They sit in for an hour, not 9 hours, 5 days a week. They're not in the environment we operate in. No. And I've had it back before I got a company car about 1,000 years ago. One of the ways for me to get a car to do my job was to have a car on test. So we'd reach out to Ford or Nissan or Land Rover, whoever, and say, we've got a thing coming up. Could you loan us a press car for us to do a test drive on? And we'll write about it. And the number of times, and part of it was the enthusiasm, I think. Somebody would arrive and they'd hand you the keys to a brand spanking new Land Rover or a Land Cruiser or something like that. There you go, that's yours for the week. Enjoy. And you get it. Oh, look at this. I can take the missus out in style. I've got a fantastic car. The petrol is not. I'm not paying for the petrol. Everything's right with the world, and you feel like a king. And then you drive from. My old office used to be in Sutton in Surrey, and you drive up to Uttoxeter to go and pay JCB a visit. And by the time you get there, your bum is completely numb and your left leg has gone to sleep. And you've realised that you've been sweating profusely, even though the climate control was racked up to maximum air conditioning. It's only when you actually get to experience it properly for an extended period. It's a bit like going on holiday with a girlfriend, isn't it? You meet supposedly the girl of your dreams, and you meet her once or twice a week, and you have a fine old time, and you're going out for dinner and you're going out for drinks, and you spend a bit of time together, and it's fantastic. And then you go on holiday together where you're together 24/7 for 2 weeks, and you realize actually she is by far the most irritating person I've ever met. That's machines for you. Dan says, thing is, many companies go for the cheaper options and don't talk to the operator on what would be best to suit them. Yeah. Again, I'll go back to the very title of that article. What you want. When was the last time that your employer actually came to you and went, we're getting a new excavator. What you want? Now, obviously everything comes into play. The cost, the local dealer support, the level of discount they're going to get, the local service support, the availability of parts. I understand all of that. But are you actually consulted? Mick Norton says, myth? NASA spent millions. Oh, excuse me. NASA spent millions developing a pen that could write in zero gravity, while the Soviets simply used pencils. I have told you, I'm very conscious of the fact that I've been going for an hour and 18 minutes out, so I'm going to make this the last thing. Years and years ago, we were at an excavator factory, and the factory, I'm not going to name names, but the factory was building excavators to a certain size. Okay. But they were going up. They were going to add an additional model. I promise you this is not JCB, it's not the 370X, it's a long while ago. They were adding a larger model, and all of their systems were set up to lift an engine to this height and push in. The problem was that the new machine that they were going to be bringing in was a bit higher. So it wouldn't, the existing system wouldn't be able to lift and go in because it would hit the machine. So they put their best engineers on it, and they were talking about overhead cranes and various other bits and pieces. And ultimately, one of their engineers said, well, why don't we just put a bit of concrete under the thing that's pushing the engine in? And they've been talking about, gantry cranes at costs of hundreds of thousands, and it actually required about threepence halfpennies worth of concrete just to raise the thing up a little bit. Yeah. Pens and pencils is an urban myth and not true. It's a great story, though, isn't it? Great story. Never had that. Always hear new machines are coming, but nothing to suit the operators. I wonder, Jim, this is probably more in your wheelhouse. I wonder what a machine would look like, particularly in the cab, if it were actually designed by an operator. Because when you think about it, the bit that you're actually buying, let's take an excavator for example, the bit that you're actually buying that does the work is the engine, the undercarriage, the boom, the dipper, the attachment. So all of that is designed for optimum performance and safety and efficiency and so on. But there's that bit in the middle where the operator sits. Is there not something to be said for sitting down a few hundred or a few thousand operators and saying, all right, how would you do it then? Now, there is every possibility that we might end up with more or less what we've got now. But would we? And at the point where you're effectively compromising, if you need side cameras, immediately that the visibility is not everything that it could be. Now, I realise that an excavator has a boom going up and down on your right hand side. Fully aware of that. But if you're relying on cameras for forward, side, or rear visibility, visibility is an option. It is a problem. If you have operators complaining they can't get in and out of the cab easily, that too is a problem. If you've got operators complaining of bad backs or the fact that their ankles ache at the end of the day because they've been sat there with their feet turned out like that just to make room, all of that is a problem. I wonder if you could get 100 Jim Turners in a room to design a cab. Would it look exactly like we've got now, or would it look different? If there is a manufacturer out there that would like to organise that, I'd be more than happy to come along and film it. Anyway, people, that will do us for today. I'm going to go and do some other stuff, what needs doing. I'll be back tomorrow for the final day, for the final time this week, on Friday. Till then, everybody, have a fine and splendid day. Look after yourselves, I guess. Whatever the weather, wherever you are, enjoy. I'll see you tomorrow. Tatty bye.